the sleek glass towers of Thornhill. Industries gleamed in the early morning. Sun as Maria pushed through the service entrance, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished marble floor. Emma was strapped securely to her chest in a faded baby carrier, her tiny fingers clutching her mother's uniform. Maria's heart hammered against her ribs. She had never broken a rule in her life, but desperation had a way of rewriting the rule book. "Please, just stay quiet, baby girl," she whispered, kissing Emma's forehead before heading to the supply closet on the 42nd floor. For the first 2 hours, everything went according to plan. Maria worked methodically through the executive offices, dusting mahogany desks and emptying trash bins while Emma slept peacefully against her chest. The floor was usually deserted until 9, giving her a precious window to work unnoticed. She had just finished vacuuming the conference room when she heard the elevator chime. Her blood ran cold. It was only 7:30. Nobody came to the executive floor this early. Maria quickly switched off the vacuum and ducked behind a partition, her hand instinctively cradling Emma's head. Through the frosted glass, she could make out the silhouette of a tall figure walking with purposeful strides. The footsteps grew closer, then stopped directly outside the conference room. "I know someone's in there," a deep voice called out. "The vacuum's still warm." Maria closed her eyes, fighting back tears. This was it. She was going to lose her job, and with it, any chance of keeping her tiny apartment. Slowly, she emerged from behind the partition, her head bowed. "I'm so sorry, sir. I can explain?" She looked up and felt her stomach drop. Standing before her was Alexander Thornhill himself, the billionaire CEO whose portrait hung in the main lobby. At 52, he was an imposing figure with silver-streaked hair and the kind of sharp suit that probably cost more than her annual salary. But it was his eyes that surprised her. They weren't angry. They were focused intently on the baby strapped to her chest. "Is that child yours?" he asked, his voice unreadable. "Yes, sir. My babysitter canceled, and I couldn't afford to miss work. I know it's against policy. I'll pack up my things." Maria's voice cracked as tears spilled down her cheeks. Alexander stood silent for a long moment, his jaw working as if wrestling with something internal. Then he did something that made Maria's breath catch. He pulled out his phone, but instead of calling security, he made a different call. "Jennifer, clear my morning schedule. Something important has come up." He ended the call and turned back to Maria. "What's your daughter's name?" "Emma, sir," Maria whispered, confused. "And yours?" "Maria Rodriguez." "Come with me, Maria." Her legs felt like lead as she followed the CEO down the corridor to his private office, a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling, windows overlooking the city. He gestured to a leather sofa near the window. "Sit, please." Maria perched on the edge, too nervous to relax. Emma had woken up and was beginning to fuss. Alexander walked to a cabinet and returned with a bottle of water, handing it to her. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 14 months, sir." "And in those 14 months, have you ever called in sick?" Maria shook her head. "No, sir. I can't afford to." Alexander nodded slowly, then sat down in the chair across from her. What he said next made the room spin. 28 years ago, I was exactly where you are. Single parent, impossible choices. A baby who depended on me for everything." His voice grew softer, distant. "My daughter, Sophie, was 6 months old when my wife left. I was working 3 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night, bringing Sophie to work in a backpack because I had no other option." Maria stared at him, unable to reconcile the powerful billionaire before her with the struggling father he described. "I was fired from 2 of those jobs," he continued. "The third employer, an old man named Frank Morrison, made a different choice. Instead of firing me, he let me bring Sophie to work. He set up a small play area in the back of his hardware store. That kindness saved my life. It gave me the stability to finish night school, to build something better." Alexander's eyes glistened. "Frank died 5 years ago, but I think about him every single day." Emma let out a small cry, and Maria began to rock her gently. Alexander watched them with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I built this company on a promise to myself," he said, standing up and walking to his desk. "That if I ever had the power to help someone the way Frank helped me, I would. Not just once, but as a foundation of how I do business." He picked up his phone and made another call. "Jennifer, I need you to get HR on the line immediately." "Yes, now." Maria's heart sank. This was it. The firing was official. But what happened over the next hour shattered every expectation she had. Alexander didn't just allow her to keep her job. He transformed the entire company's policy on working parents. By noon, Thornhill Industries had announced the creation of an on-site childcare center, free for all employees making under a certain salary threshold. Maria was offered a position in the company's corporate social responsibility department, developing programs to support working families. "But, sir," Maria stammered, overwhelmed, "I don't have the qualifications for that kind of position." "You have something more valuable," Alexander replied. "You have the lived experience. You know what families need because you've needed it yourself. We'll provide the training. You provide the insight." The news spread through the company like wildfire, and by the end of the week it had caught the attention of national media. Alexander gave only one interview, and in it, he shared his own story publicly for the first time. The response was overwhelming. Other companies began implementing similar policies. A movement had begun, all because one mother had been desperate enough to break the rules and one CEO had remembered what it felt like to be desperate. 3 months later, Maria stood in the brand-new Thornhill Industries Family Care Center, watching Emma play in a bright, cheerful nursery alongside 30 other children of company employees. The center had hired professional childcare workers, installed state-of-the-art safety features, and created a warm, nurturing environment that exceeded anything Maria could have imagined. Alexander visited the center on opening day, and as he watched the children play, Maria approached him. "Mr. Thornhill, I need you to know something," she said quietly. "That morning when you found me in the conference room, I had $43 in my bank account and a stack of overdue bills on my kitchen table. I was so scared that I couldn't even think straight. You didn't just save my job that day. You saved my life." Alexander's eyes grew misty. "You saved something for me, too. Maria, you reminded me why I built all of this in the first place. It's easy to forget when you're up in these towers what really matters. You brought me back down to earth." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn photograph, handing it to Maria. It showed a much younger Alexander, looking exhausted but smiling, with a baby strapped to his chest in a carrier remarkably similar to the one Maria had worn. Behind them was the modest storefront of Morrison Hardware. "I keep this in my pocket every day," he said, "to remember Frank, to remember where I came from. And now I'll also remember you and Emma, the day you walked into that conference. Room wasn't just another Tuesday for me. It was a chance to finally pay forward what Frank Morrison gave me all those years ago." As they stood there watching the children play, Maria realized something profound. Kindness wasn't just a single act, it was a ripple that extended across time and lives, in ways we could never fully measure. Frank Morrison's compassion had created Alexander Thornhill's success, which had now transformed her life and the lives of countless other struggling parents. The story of the humble employee who brought her baby to work became more than just a viral news story. It became a reminder that behind every policy, every rule, every corporate decision, there are human beings with real struggles and real dreams. And sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to remember their own struggle to change everything. Emma's laughter rang out across the nursery, a sound of pure joy that represented hope, second chances, and the extraordinary power of human compassion. In that moment, Maria understood that she hadn't just found a better job, she had found a community that valued her not despite her challenges, but because they made her human. And in making room for her humanity, they had rediscovered their own